but to share a little bit more about the new firm I'm with. The main reason I changed is because I get to wear this instead of button down in a blazer, and it shortened my commute by about 12 seconds. So, but in all seriousness, I'll share a little bit about the team and the reasons why I changed. But my favorite job, or responsibility I'll say, is my family. Blessed to have two amazing kids. It's Ari, 3.5, 3.5. He's going on 30 with the things he says and does. I'm like, buddy, where did you hear that or learn that? So it's like talking to little human. That's them on their first day of school a few months back. Halloween, we dress up as Paw Patrol characters, all about it. So Marshall and Sky. There's a little pumpkin patch, just like looks so grown up with her little jeans and things and make me tear up. As you can probably tell by the quality of that picture, that's my wife as a baby, and that's Clara side by side. So no denying, those two. And Ari's my little mini me. This is him on his third birthday when he had some flow, so maybe he'll follow in lacrosse footsteps, maybe hockey, I don't know. But watching golf and getting a set of golf clubs. He definitely doesn't take after his dad's genes. He definitely got his golf game from his mom. He's already better than me. But my beautiful wife, Taylor, at a recent wedding, we were at New Jersey. Definitely outkicked my coverage. As you can probably tell, so I could spend the whole time on her and my family, how thankful and blessed I am. And then, not in the bio, but I like to smoke meat on the smoker as like another little hobby. So that's part of what was 50 pounds I did for a church tailgate. And pretty soon they're asking me to smoke some ham. So Stephen, I might be picking your brain on getting some recommendations there. As far as Willow, the reason I changed roles a few weeks back, a month ago, was for these folks on the screen. Some of you might know Phil and Stephen were actually at Thrivent some years ago when I started in the industry. And 3 years ago, they branched off and started their own firm. And it's since added Madison, who also used to be at Thrivent. Probably no same common theme here. And then a few months back, I had a conversation with Phil, and stars aligned for me to join them again. And we have Dee as well, our office administrator, who is wise beyond her years. So that team approach is the reason I switched. And when I'm in the room with any one of them, I'm easily the least intelligent in the group, so I'm constantly learning from them, and a really great team with tons of experience that not only know what they do, but put clients first and really listen. So again, that's the main reason I changed. When somebody works with us, it's not siloed, it's not Joe's client, it's not Steven's, it's not anybody's. It's truly a team approach where we have our different roles to help our clients, but it's not siloed in that, so any one of us can fill in if somebody's sick or on vacation. We focus on taking a lot of the hats off of what's on clients' minds, so they don't have to do that. So we know they're busy with their jobs and their daily lives, family lives and things. Keeping up with the tax law changes and the markets and everything else in between, that can be a lot, and it is a full-time job, because that is our full-time job. So people don't want to often spend the time to do that or learn, am I doing it right? Can I trust the source, and what do I do? How do I make changes based on that? So at the end of the day, that means clarity and confidence for the direction that they have in their financial lives. So this is kind of what I asked earlier in the weekly presentation as far as who do you know and who we can serve. So it's a lot of different individuals. Doesn't mean they're only 5 to 10 years out from retirement, but at that stage, they're starting to think about what does that transition look like as they're working not at all or a little bit less. They might be wondering, do they have enough? Meaning, have they saved enough, or is this enough to sustain the lifestyle that they envision for retirement? Again, not knowing how long we'll be here. Retirement isn't the end, it's just the next chapter. Or am I doing this right? Am I using the right accounts? What are the tax implications of pulling from the accounts I'm pulling from? Other folks would be those that are not quite approaching retirement, but working their way towards that, is employees that, working professionals. This can be the Walmarts, the Tysons, the JB Hunts, but really anybody that has questions about how do they optimize their work benefits, are they taking advantage of what they have? And that can be different within the household. If there's 2 working spouses, unless they work in the same company, they're often navigating different benefits. So we can help them weigh what is the most advantageous for them. And as well, if there's one working spouse and one staying at home, that's a different nuance as well. You probably heard a lot of what's on the screen before as far as what we do and what goes into that. Again, it's different for everybody. There's no one size fits all, so it's understanding what's top of mind for them and what's a priority for them. But these are some of the topics. As you can imagine, it goes beyond just investment management or picking funds and picking stocks. That's not us. So if somebody's looking for the hot tip as far as what should they pick, that's not our role. But all these things and how they work together, right? The investments, the taxes, the estate planning. I wish Dequisha was here. But how these all fit in, and then again, depending on their work benefits, how are we optimizing that? And it's really not just the one-time thing, but it's in between all those events, right? So it might be there's this inflection point, this big decision they have to decide on. When we sell this business, what's our number we need to sell to receive that this is going to be sustainable for the future? So a little bit of overlap from the previous slide, but one of the ones I would like to point out is the qualified plan management that we can do. Qualified plan just means 401ks, 403bs, like workplace plans. Typically, most people's experiences are, if I want to work with an advisor, I have to transfer all my money to them. That's not the case with us. So we can still assist people, even if we're not managing their funds at Willow, and that includes their 401ks and workplace plans. So previously, we could see what's there, but we had to make a kind of vague recommendation. We have a platform that they could actually, if the client allows us to, they can share their information with us, say their accounts at Fidelity through work. We can see all their investment options, what they've selected, the fund expenses for that, and then actually make recommendations and manage it on their behalf. So and understanding how that fits into their whole plan. So that's something new to me, and that's really beneficial for clients to know, okay, we have 10 different accounts, how are they all invested, or are they cohesive? That's been a game changer where we can look at all those different components. Okay, so a little bit about Willow that's different. Has anybody heard of a fee-only firm? Fee-only nods? So, so recently, yeah. So I know you can read, but fee-only means the only fee that we're receiving is from our clients. So we're truly not, there's not a commission, there's not an assets under management fee that most are familiar with, the traditional approach. And since we don't sell anything, we can confidently say, you're never gonna buy anything from us, or somebody wouldn't buy anything from us. The traditional approach is you have an assets under management fee. There's a percentage of what the advisor is managing. And then you have the fund expenses themselves, and then sometimes commissions and sales charges that get tacked on. And that can be really hard for people to understand what their fee is and what they're getting for that fee. And it goes up and down based on what the market does. So you might have heard commercials where it's like, we do better when our clients do better. Because the account balance went up, the percentage stayed the same, so the advisor made more commission. If someone's account goes up, we don't get paid more. If we recommend they invest more money in the account, we don't get paid anymore. So ours is a flat fee based on the complexity and what we're working together on. And that aligns with their goals for those same reasons, because we recommend they get maturity and they need life insurance. We're not getting paid on that, right? Estate planning, same thing. We're not drafting the wills and the trusts, but we can get them to the door, to the altar, knowing about their family and what they want to protect and pass on, and we don't get any compensation for that. So that can let people's guard down, where they can actually share and not wonder, what's he trying to sell me down the road? So what it's like, this is one of the pictures. This is probably the one you have in the packet. So if somebody said, hey, I have a question on, maybe it's this one scenario or in the season of life, I might want to connect with you. What does that look like? So I think Daphne's used the before we get married, we date. This is kind of that same thread here, where we would do a compatibility call first. So typically 20, 30 minutes to understand what's on somebody's radar and what's top of mind for them. Maybe what questions they have, things they're dealing with before we sit down and have a whole hour-long meeting, and then just be respectful of their time too, especially with commute. And then if what they say and they share aligns with something we can do and we think we might be a good fit, we would schedule a more in-depth meeting. It can be in person, it could be in Zoom, depending on their schedule, to unpack that a little bit more and see which route they might want to go. So you have the two different approaches. The Willow, like the tree, is the wealth management side. So what most people are familiar with, we're actually holding the funds at Willow, and we use Schwab as the company as our custodian, where it's the more traditional approach, understanding how to invest funds, what's someone's goal for them, and the tax implications and things. The Willow side, the Pathway side is one I'm really excited about. That's our hourly service, which not everyone has. This is the only company I've ever seen that does that, where we have the ability to engage with somebody, whether we have their investments or not. So there isn't an obligation for them to transfer any accounts to us. Again, kind of like the 401k management, we're still providing advice to them. There's no obligation for us to manage those funds. So that's a different approach where somebody might not, have funds for us to manage, or they don't want us to, but they're still dealing with some kind of question, maybe some season they're going through. It's end of year. What do we do to make the most of the tax bracket we're in, or mitigate taxes? How does our charitable planning fit in? Maybe they're in open enrollment season, kind of like Shree's dealing with like Medicare and things. Maybe they're having the same kind of things this time of year, what decisions to make, where we can engage for as little as 1 hour and charge them, a fee for that, and then they can move on. So they get clarity on that, and we don't have to drag it out over a whole year-long process. And of course, as things change, we can always re-engage, right? We can do a check-in call to make sure the plans we have in place still align, because we know a lot happens within a year that might necessitate change. Markets aside, people's, what's going on in their lives is more important. So we're constantly in communication with them, and it's a partnership alongside somebody. So it's not just, hey, here's an idea. It's let's unpack this and actually implement that, and we're doing that alongside them. So we know that it gets done, because the plan is only as good as what's implemented. And then of course, for the more complex, that could be a bigger scope of work, so to speak, and then a higher fee. And that's something we're all transparent about. And in the vein of transparency, and then running out of time, people say, well, what's your hourly fee? It's $500 an hour, and that's whether it's one advisor or 3 working on it. So if it's 3 advisors working on the same case, it's not triple the fee. And we've heard some feedback, well, that's astronomical. And then we go look at what they're currently paying, and we're still able to save them money because of all the fees they didn't know about. And it doesn't, again, it's flat. So it's not going up when the accounts go up and the market goes up. So again, that's something we're going to lead with. We're transparent about that. At the end of the day, we want people to know what they have, and so they can have clarity on that and confidence moving forward, and confidently say they'll never buy anything from us. So I'm realizing that even 12 minutes goes by really quick. So I don't know if I appreciate all your flexibility during the change as far as like the schedule goes, and people ask me questions and all the things. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them the best I can. Great.
Are you limited to just Arkansas? Can you do Oklahoma?
We can do, great question. Yeah, we can work with people in any state. If there's more than like a certain amount, like our clients in a certain state, we just have to file, like a little filing fee. But other than that, we have the flexibility to work anywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, previously we had to have licenses in all of those states because we're selling insurance and annuities and all the things. We don't have insurance licenses because they don't get commissions, so we can seemingly work with people anywhere.
So I saw that you said you want to see clients preferably, 10 to 20 years or 10 to 15 years before they retire?
Roughly 5 to 10.
Oh, 5 to
yeah.
10? Okay.
At that point, it could be sooner. The more time we have on our side, the more time we have to make those decisions. Meaning, are we saving enough money now? What is your income need in retirement and things? And we can, of course, project what inflation and things will do. Whereas if someone said, hey, I'm thinking about retiring next year, what do you think? Like, well, we're already here. Sometimes we can't pull those levers to make it work. So 5 to 10 years is generally the sweet spot where we know what Social Security and things will look like with a little more certainty. Yeah, Mike?
Do you guys handle those like will services? Like instead of like using you as like a financial advisor, I want to like roll over my 401k to my Roth IRA. Will you guys be able to do what I use it?
We could, if it's in your best interest to do that. So that's certainly something we do as far as moving accounts and facilitating that. If we're going to charge a fee, we want to make sure it's in your best interest to do that. Meaning, not charge you a fee that's not, you're going to come out underwater, right? So we want you to come out ahead. That's certainly something we do, facilitating that. Derek?
Is there any industry trends that you guys like saving people from? For example, rolling into the wrong investment vehicles that are trendy?
Yeah, that the big one over the last few years has been like the crypto space and any of those where it's an asset class, but just like a lot of others are, where if people understand the risks of investment, or if they can't understand what they're investing in, that's where we kind of pump the brakes. So if they're familiar with it enough, and we say, and they know the risks of that, we're okay, allocating a certain percentage of that, where it's not like a get-rich-quick scheme of, hey, I'm putting all my life savings in this thing and hoping it goes to the moon kind of thing. Yeah, right, yeah. So that's been a big one. And things of just knowing our clients and what their tolerance for risk is. If it's out of the norm for them, then it's not going to align with their goals. So it can be a lot of different things, or stock picking. Hey, what do you think of this one? That's less and less common because I think people know what we do, but that's a losing battle. It's a gamble at that point. Yeah.
What's a good icebreaker conversation to get somebody prepped to be able to talk to you, or kind of like break that ice, because talking about investments and people's money and insurance and kind of their situation, what's the best way to kind of break that and get in there so that we can, send people your way?
Sure, yeah. You could ask them, like, when's the last time they reviewed that, or if they're working with somebody, things like that, or anything that's, causing them to lose sleep at night. We offer those consultations complimentary, so it doesn't cost them anything but a little bit of their time to do that, because we don't want people to be checking in every day. That's not healthy, but we also don't want it to be 6 months or a year or a decade where they don't know. So you can say, when's the last time we looked at those things, just make sure it aligns with their goals, and let them know we don't charge anything, to have those conversations. We might say, keep doing what you're doing. If things change, let us know. And if there's an area we might recommend something, we'll certainly share that. Kristen?
What's your favorite type of client to work with?
That's a good question. The ones that listen and act on the advice. Frankly, where it's you can relate, because in a lot of different regards, because there's so many different things that might come across someone's plate or be on their radar. The ones that are willing to share, right, as far as like not be vulnerable, but share what they have or don't have, and then we get to see the full picture, because if we only get part of the information, any recommendation we're making is not going to be based on accurate information. So one, sharing and being open to that, which is not always easy when people talk about their finances. But then from there, any recommendation we make, they trust that it's in their best interest and then actually act on that, versus like being on the fence or trying to use free advice and then run with it. Hopefully that answers.
I have one last question, actually.
Yeah.
So, what in the financial planning,
Is a good, common mistake, not a good mistake, but a common mistake that you see people making with their financial planning?
Sure. A lot of times it comes from rollovers and things. If they're leaving a company and they think, I just have to roll it over and get out of this company. Sometimes it's in their best interest to do that. Other times they lose the ability to do other strategies that they can't then undo. So on the front end, making sure they understand what their options are, and then making an informed decision before doing something they can't unwork, or it's harder to undo. Or distributions, things like that. It's like, I don't know how those taxable. Well, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Appreciate all your questions. Thanks, everybody.